Commander Vextor's four purple eyes blinked rapidly as his sleek silver transport touched down on the dusty landing pad of Terra Nova Military Academy. Steam hissed from the ship's cooling vents while the commander's 8 tentacles adjusted. His official recording equipment. He had traveled 3 solar systems to reach this remote human outpost, carrying orders from the Galactic Confederation Council to evaluate Earth's military capabilities. The morning sun cast long shadows across the Academy grounds as Vextor emerged from his vessel. His biosuit automatically adjusted to Earth's atmosphere, while internal translators calibrated to human speech patterns. Around him, other alien observers from various species stepped out of their own ships. Tall, crystalline beings from Zephyria, floating gas creatures from the nebula colonies, and mechanical representatives from the robot collective, all had come to witness what humans called military training. Vextor's first impression was chaos. Loud noises echoed across the compound as groups of young humans in matching green uniforms ran in formation while shouting rhythmic chants. Their voices carried across the morning air in perfect synchronization, yet their faces showed signs of exhaustion and strain. Most peculiar was their apparent enthusiasm for this organized suffering. Day 1, Hour 0700, Vextor spoke. Into his quantum recorder, human subjects appear to voluntarily submit to coordinated physical stress while vocalizing in unison. No signs of coercion detected. Recommend psychological evaluation. His attention shifted to a large field where Instructor Kim, a stern-faced human with short black hair, was directing approximately 30 cadets through what appeared to be voluntary torture. The humans crawled on their bellies through thick brown mud, beneath a network of razor wire, their uniforms becoming increasingly filthy with each meter of progress. What defied all known military protocols was the presence of other humans positioned around the obstacle course, armed with weapons that fired brightly colored projectiles. These enemies were systematically shooting the crawling cadets, marking them with splashes of red, blue, and yellow paint. Instead of seeking cover or retreating, the targeted humans continued their advance while laughing and calling out jokes to their attackers. Vextor's tentacles writhed in bewilderment as he watched Cadet Lee take a direct hit to his back, followed by 16 more paint rounds to various parts of his body. The young human emerged from the mud pit, covered head to toe in rainbow colors, grinning widely as he embraced the very cadet who had been shooting him moments before. Extraordinary behavior documented, the commander whispered. Subject Lee appears to have formed positive emotional bond with individual who repeatedly attacked him with projectile weapons. Human psychology may be fundamentally different from all known sentient species. The training exercise continued with even more bizarre activities. Vextor observed Cadet Park extending his hand to help Cadet Min climb over a 3-meter wooden wall. The moment Min reached the top, Park grabbed him, and both humans tumbled together into a massive mud pit below. Both emerged completely covered in brown slime, water dripping from their hair, yet their facial expressions indicated joy rather than anger or pain. A mechanical observer from the robot collective rolled up beside Vextor, its optical sensors whirring as they focused on the scene. Query, are these humans malfunctioning? The robot asked in its monotone voice. Unknown, Vextor replied, his own confusion growing. Their behavior suggests either advanced psychological conditioning or species-wide mental instability. The morning's strangest event began when Cadet Han gathered approximately 60 other cadets in the center of the training field. He held up a piece of bright red fabric attached to a metal pole and began explaining something called Capture the Flag. Within minutes, the humans had divided themselves into 2 opposing armies, complete with designated leaders, strategic, planners, and specialized roles. Vextor watched in fascination as both teams immediately began constructing elaborate battle plans. They drew diagrams in the dirt, assigned scouts to gather intelligence on enemy positions, and developed complex, multi-phase assault strategies. The level of tactical thinking displayed by these young humans impressed even the experienced commander, who had witnessed countless military operations across the galaxy. Yet the objective of this sophisticated warfare remained utterly mystifying. Both armies were fighting desperately to steal a piece of colored cloth from each other. They treated this fabric with the same reverence that other species reserved for sacred relics or vital resources. Teams risked capture, endured mock combat, and celebrated minor tactical victories as if the fate of entire worlds hung in the balance. Additional note to Council, Vextor recorded, while watching humans dive, roll, and sprint across the field in pursuit of fabric. Human military training focuses extensively on capturing textile materials from opponents. The strategic value of cloth remains unclear, but their commitment to textile acquisition appears absolute. Recommend further investigation into human fabric-based warfare doctrine. As the morning exercise concluded, Vextor realized his initial assessment would require significant revision. These humans were not primitive warriors using basic tactics. They were something far more complex and potentially dangerous, a species that had turned suffering into entertainment, competition into bonding, and simple games into elaborate military exercises. The second dawn on Earth brought Commander Vextor to the Academy's massive gymnasium, where the morning light streamed through high windows onto polished wooden floors. His biosuit had adapted overnight to better understand human physiology, yet nothing could have prepared him for what he was about to witness. 3 other alien observers joined him. Ambassador Crix from the crystalline worlds, whose transparent body shimmered with nervous energy, and 2 hovering gas entities from the void sector who communicated through color changes in their ethereal forms. Instructor Cho, a compact human with calloused hands and quick movements, stood before 30 cadets arranged in neat rows on blue mats. The humans wore white uniforms with colored belts, their bare feet silent against the floor. Vextor's recording equipment hummed quietly as he documented what appeared to be a peaceful meditation session. Today, we practice advanced grappling techniques, Instructor Cho announced, his voice echoing off the gymnasium walls. Remember, control is more important than strength. Cadet Song, step forward and partner with Cadet Bay. What happened next shattered every assumption Vextor held about civilized combat training. The 2 young humans faced each other, bowed respectfully, then began what could only be described as voluntary attempted murder. Cadet Song circled behind his partner with fluid movements, wrapping both arms around Cadet Bay's neck in a grip that would have killed most species instantly. Vextor's 4 eyes dilated in shock as Cadet Bay's face changed colors, shifting from pink to red to a concerning shade of purple. The victim's hands tapped frantically against his attacker's arms in what appeared to be a desperate surrender signal. Instead of releasing his hold, Cadet Song tightened his grip until Cadet Bay's body went completely limp and collapsed to the mat. The alien commander's recording device trembled in his tentacles as he prepared to document his first human casualty. Surely medical teams would rush in, emergency protocols would activate, and the perpetrator would face immediate consequences. Instead, the 30 surrounding humans erupted in enthusiastic applause, while Instructor Cho nodded approvingly. "Excellent technique, Song," the instructor called out. "Clean execution, perfect control. Bay, how do you feel?" The apparently deceased human sat up, rubbed his neck, and smiled broadly. "Great choke. Thanks for the practice," Cadet Bay said, cheerfully, extending his hand to shake with the human who had just rendered him unconscious. Ambassador Crix's crystalline form flickered with confusion. Query to Commander Vextor: "Did we just witness attempted homicide followed by gratitude from the victim?" "I believe so," Vextor replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "Humans appear to have weaponized friendship through voluntary strangulation." The HFY. Morning's horrors continued as Instructor Cho introduced increasingly violent activities disguised as education. He produced a stack of wooden boards, each one several centimeters thick and reinforced with metal brackets. Vextor assumed these were demonstration props until Cadet Jun stepped forward and positioned one board between 2 concrete blocks. "Power comes from proper technique, not just strength," Instructor Cho explained. "Focus your energy, control your breathing, and strike through the target." Cadet Jun raised his bare hand high above his head, took a deep breath, and brought his fist down with tremendous force. The wooden board exploded into splinters with a crack that echoed throughout the gymnasium. Blood immediately began flowing from the cadet's knuckles. Yet instead of seeking medical attention, he raised both hands in victory while his classmates cheered wildly. "Fascinating pain tolerance," Vextor muttered into his recorder. Human Jun appears to celebrate self-inflicted tissue damage as personal achievement. His injury is bleeding significantly, yet he's requesting another board to destroy. One by one, other cadets stepped forward to break wooden boards with various body parts. Cadet Wu used her elbow, shattering 3 boards simultaneously. Cadet Lim employed his shin, reducing thick planks to sawdust, while grinning through obvious pain. Most shocking was Cadet Ray, who broke boards using only her head, her skull apparently harder than reinforced wood. The 2 gas entities from the void sector shifted to deep purple, indicating extreme confusion in their species' color language. They had never encountered beings who celebrated injury as accomplishment, treating physical damage as a source of pride rather than concern. The final demonstration pushed Vexitor's understanding beyond all limits. Instructor Cho divided the class into pairs and distributed protective gear, padded helmets, chest guards, and thick gloves. What followed could only be described as organized assault disguised as education. "Sparring practice builds reflexes and timing," the instructor explained. "Cadet Yun partner with Cadet Day. Light contact only, focus on technique over power." Vextor watched in growing alarm as the 2 humans began systematically attacking each other with punches, kicks, and grappling moves. Each successful strike was met with encouragement from Instructor Cho, who shouted tactical advice while his students engaged in controlled combat. Most disturbing was their energy levels. Rather than growing tired from repeated impacts, both humans seemed to become more enthusiastic with each exchange. "Remarkable adaptation observed," Vextor recorded. Subjects Yun and Day appear to gain strength through mutual violence. Their movements become faster and more precise as physical contact increases. This suggests pain may serve as positive reinforcement in human psychology. The sparring session concluded with both combatants embracing warmly, discussing techniques they had used against each other, and expressing gratitude for the opportunity to practice controlled violence. Around the gymnasium, similar scenes played out as 30 humans celebrated their morning of voluntary combat training. As the session ended, Vextor compiled his observations with growing concern. These humans had created educational systems based on activities that would traumatize or kill most galactic species. They taught unconsciousness as skill, celebrated pain as achievement, and bonded through organized violence. The 3rd solar cycle found Commander Vextor entering the Academy's Tactical Simulation Center, a massive dome-shaped building that hummed with advanced holographic technology. His tentacles adjusted his recording equipment, while 3 companion observers from different star systems flanked him: a towering insectoid from the Hive worlds, a floating crystal being that pulsed with inner light, and a mechanical unit whose optical sensors whirred constantly as they analyzed human behavior patterns. The simulation center's interior resembled a high-tech amphitheater, with dozens of projection platforms creating 3-dimensional battlefields that flickered with realistic detail. Mountains, forests, urban environments, and alien landscapes materialized and dissolved as training scenarios cycled through various combat situations. Vextor expected to finally witness military planning that matched galactic standards. Instead, he discovered chaos disguised as strategy. At the center platform, Cadet J stood before a holographic display showing enemy positions across a desert battlefield. His hands moved through the air, manipulating virtual troop formations, while his voice carried across the room with passionate intensity. Facing him, Cadet 1 crossed her arms and shook her head vigorously, her own tactical suggestions creating competing battle plans that overlapped in brilliant colors. "Your flanking maneuver is completely insane," Cadet 1 declared, pointing at Jay's proposed troop movements. "You're sending half our forces through that canyon, where they'll be sitting ducks for enemy artillery. It's tactical suicide." Cadet J's response defied all military logic. Instead of reconsidering his strategy or deferring to senior judgment, he grinned widely and nodded enthusiastically. Exactly why it'll work, he replied, his eyes sparkling with what could only be described as dangerous excitement. They'll never expect us to do something so obviously stupid. While they're focused on our suicidal canyon assault, our real attack comes from the East Ridge. The argument that followed resembled a verbal combat exercise more than strategic planning. Both humans raised their voices, gestured wildly at the holographic battlefield, and challenged each other's tactical assumptions with increasing fervor. Other cadets gathered around, adding their own opinions to the heated debate. Vextor documented their apparent inability to agree on basic military principles. Observation. Human strategic planning involves prolonged verbal conflict, he whispered into his recorder. Subjects appear incapable of reaching consensus through logical analysis. Recommend immediate intervention before violence erupts. For 20 full minutes, the argument raged while holographic armies moved and reformed according to competing visions. Cadet J defended his unconventional approach, while Cadet 1 countered with traditional military doctrine. Neither human showed signs of backing down, their debate growing more intense with each passing moment. Then Instructor Nam stepped forward and changed everything. New scenario, the instructor announced, waving his hand to dissolve the desert battlefield. Emergency evacuation mission. Your unit is trapped behind enemy lines with wounded soldiers. Available resources: 50 meters of rope, 12 wooden poles, and whatever you can improvise from local materials. You have 30 minutes to extract all casualties. The transformation was instantaneous and utterly bewildering. The same humans who had been arguing passionately seconds before immediately shifted into perfect cooperation mode. Cadet J turned to Cadet 1 with a respectful nod, and she responded by outlining equipment distribution with calm efficiency. I'll take point team and scout the extraction route, J said. Good. I'll coordinate the stretcher construction and organize casualty transport, 1 replied. Vextor's 4 eyes blinked rapidly as he watched the humans work together with seamless precision. They divided into specialized teams, assigned leadership roles, and began constructing elaborate rescue systems using only the provided materials. Their previous disagreement had vanished completely, replaced by focused collaboration that impressed even the mechanical observer beside him. Query: how do humans transition from conflict to cooperation so efficiently? The robot asked. Unknown, Vextor admitted. Their behavioral patterns suggest advanced psychological conditioning or natural pack-hunting instincts. The evacuation. Exercise revealed remarkable human ingenuity. Teams led by different cadets created stretcher systems from rope and poles, designed pulley mechanisms to lift injured soldiers over obstacles, and established communication networks using hand signals and whispered codes. Most impressive was their ability to adapt their plans in real time as new challenges emerged. When the holographic simulation introduced enemy patrols, the humans immediately modified their extraction routes. When terrain obstacles appeared, they improvised new transportation methods. When time pressure increased, they streamlined their operations without sacrificing safety protocols. The afternoon brought war games that elevated human tactical thinking to even higher levels. Teams led by Cadets Key and Sue engaged in complex battlefield scenarios that spanned multiple environments and victory conditions. Vextor observed from his elevated platform as the humans demonstrated capabilities that defied their apparent. Chaos Team Key established defensive positions in a holographic forest, while Team Sue approached through simulated swampland. Both groups communicated through subtle signals, hand gestures, whistle codes, and even strategic placement of equipment that conveyed tactical information. Their ability to maintain unit cohesion while engaging in mock combat impressed observers from across the galaxy. Human strategic thinking appears chaotic but produces effective results, Vextor noted. They argue about everything, then execute plans flawlessly. This suggests their apparent disorder may be sophisticated planning methodology unknown to other species. The most remarkable demonstration came as darkness fell across the academy grounds. Cadet Bin gathered 12 volunteers for what Instructor Nam called a night infiltration exercise. Using only moonlight and whispered commands, Bin coordinated his team through a complex obstacle course that wound through buildings, over walls, and around automated defense systems. Vextor followed at a distance, his enhanced vision tracking the humans as they moved through shadows with surprising stealth. Cadet Bin used hand signals, soft clicking sounds, and strategic positioning to guide his team past sensor arrays and camera systems. Most impressive was their ability to adapt when unexpected obstacles appeared: guard patrols, motion detectors, and simulated enemy positions that required immediate tactical adjustments. The exercise concluded with all 12 cadets successfully reaching their objective without triggering a single alarm. As they regrouped in the moonlight, Vextor realized he was witnessing something extraordinary. Humans who argued constantly about strategy, yet executed complex operations with flawless precision. The fourth dawn cycle arrived with Commander Vextor positioning himself outside the Academy barracks at precisely 0500 hours, determined to decode the psychological mysteries of human military conditioning. His biosuit's sensors had been recalibrated overnight to better monitor stress hormones and neural patterns, while his recording equipment hummed quietly in the pre-dawn darkness. Beside him, a delegation of observers from the Telepathic Council maintained their mental shields, unwilling to risk direct contact with human consciousness after reports of their chaotic thought patterns. What emerged from the barracks defied every expectation of civilized behavior. Hundreds of humans poured onto the training grounds while still half asleep, their movements sluggish and their expressions indicating clear displeasure with the early hour. Yet instead of rebellion or resistance, they immediately formed perfect rectangular formations and began subjecting themselves to organized torture. Instructor Lim, a compact human with a voice that could shatter crystal, stood before the assembled cadets and began issuing commands that would constitute war crimes in most galactic jurisdictions. 200 push-ups beginning now, he shouted, his words echoing across the compound. Vextor watched in horrified fascination as every human dropped to the ground and began repeatedly lowering and raising their bodies using only their arms for support. Their faces showed obvious strain. Sweat began flowing despite the cool morning air, and many cadets trembled with exhaustion. Yet none attempted to escape or resist this clearly punitive activity. Push-ups appear to be disciplinary action, Vextor recorded into his quantum device. Yet humans volunteer for additional repetitions without coercion, extraordinary pain tolerance documented. The most bewildering moment came when Cadet Jun, after completing the required 200 repetitions, raised his hand and addressed Instructor Lim directly. "Sir, request permission for 50 additional push-ups to improve my form." The instructor's approval sent Jun back to the ground for more voluntary punishment, while other cadets watched with expressions that suggested admiration rather than concern for their comrades' mental stability. Vextor's tentacles writhed as he tried to process this apparent celebration of self-inflicted suffering. The Telepathic Council's representative, a translucent being whose thoughts normally remained perfectly organized, broadcast confusion across multiple mental frequencies. Their psychological patterns indicate satisfaction from physical stress, the entity communicated. This contradicts all known survival instincts. Morning nutrition consumption provided equally disturbing insights into human psychology. The Academy's dining facility buzzed with activity as hundreds of cadets lined up to receive something called MREs, military meals packaged in brown containers that resembled emergency rations from failed civilizations. Vextor positioned himself near a table where cadets Ray, Gil, and One were examining their meal packages with expressions of obvious disgust. The foods inside looked unappetizing even by human standards: gray substances, unidentifiable meat products, and crackers that appeared to have been compressed under extreme pressure. "This tastes like recycled boot leather," Cadet Ray announced, after taking her first bite. "At least yours has flavor," Cadet Gil replied, poking at his portion with obvious reluctance. "Mine tastes like nothing mixed with disappointment." Cadet One held up a container of what appeared to be processed cheese. "I'm pretty sure this violates several laws of physics. How do you make food that's simultaneously liquid and solid while tasting like neither?" Despite their constant complaints, all three humans consumed their entire meals with remarkable efficiency. More shocking was their behavior when additional MREs became available. They immediately requested seconds, then thirds, continuing to eat while maintaining their verbal criticism of every bite. Humans possess remarkable ability to find sustenance inadequate, yet continue consuming it enthusiastically, Vexter noted. Their survival mechanisms appear fundamentally different from all known species. They simultaneously reject and embrace the same stimuli. The afternoon brought what humans called team-building exercises, a ritualistic process that resembled ancient tribal initiation ceremonies crossed with systematic psychological conditioning. Senior cadets led by Cadet Ho had constructed elaborate obstacle courses throughout the academy grounds, featuring mud pits, rope climbs, wall-scaling challenges, and object transportation tasks that required extreme physical effort. First year, cadets approached these obstacles with expressions ranging from determination to barely concealed terror. Vextor documented their progression through increasingly difficult challenges, while upperclassmen provided constant encouragement mixed with tactical instruction. "Crawl faster through that mud, Cadet San," Cadet Mo shouted, while jogging alongside a struggling first-year student. "Your enemy won't wait for you to get comfortable." What happened next challenged every assumption about healthy psychological development. Cadet San emerged from the mud pit completely covered in brown slime, exhausted to the point of collapse, yet turned to Cadet Mo with genuine gratitude in his voice. "Thank you for pushing me, sir," San said while wiping mud from his eyes. "I couldn't have made it without your encouragement." This pattern repeated throughout the afternoon as first-year cadets thanked their tormentors for subjecting them to increasingly difficult challenges. They carried heavy logs for kilometers, while upperclassmen shouted instructions, scaled walls while being timed and critiqued, and completed obstacle courses that left them physically and emotionally drained, yet somehow more connected to their fellow humans. "This hazing ritual appears designed to break individual will," Vexter observed, "yet participants emerge with stronger group loyalty. The psychological conditioning creates bonds through shared suffering that exceed family relationships in most species." The day's most remarkable demonstration occurred as evening approached, and hundreds of cadets assembled for what they called a forced march. Instructor Lim led the formation through the surrounding countryside, setting a pace that would challenge even mechanically enhanced beings. The humans walked in perfect synchronization despite obvious fatigue, their boots striking the ground in unified rhythm. Then something extraordinary happened. Without any apparent signal or instruction, the entire formation began singing. Their voices rose together in complex harmonies, traditional military songs that told stories of courage, sacrifice, and brotherhood. The singing continued for hours as they marched through forests, across fields, and along mountain paths. Vextor followed at a distance, his recording equipment capturing both the audio and the remarkable sight of hundreds of humans maintaining perfect vocal coordination while enduring extreme physical stress. Their songs spoke of home, honor, and willingness to die for their comrades, themes that resonated across species but had never been expressed through such organized collective expression. As the march concluded and exhausted cadets returned to their barracks, Vextor compiled his observations with growing amazement. Humans had created bonding mechanisms that transformed individual weakness into collective strength, pain into pride, and suffering into unbreakable loyalty. Commander Vextor's final evaluation began at dawn on the 7th cycle, as his sleek hover platform lifted silently into the misty mountain air above Terra Nova's wilderness training grounds. His advanced cloaking systems rendered the craft invisible to human senses, while biodampeners masked any electromagnetic signatures. Below him stretched thousands of acres of rugged terrain, where the Academy's most challenging exercise would unfold over 7 full days. 3 companion observers joined him aboard the platform, a crystalline entity from the prism worlds whose faceted body reflected the morning sunlight, a mechanical intelligence from the robot collective whose sensors could track heat signatures through solid rock, and a floating gas being from the nebula colonies that communicated through color shifts in its ethereal form. All had traveled vast distances to witness this final test of human military capabilities. The exercise parameters seemed designed to break even the hardiest species. 90 cadets had been divided into 3 teams and dropped into separate mountain valleys with minimal equipment, basic clothing, emergency medical supplies, and enough food for exactly 2 days. Their mission was to navigate 50 kilometers of hostile terrain, establish defensive positions, and rendezvous at a designated extraction point within 1 week. Team Alpha, led by Cadet Ray, found themselves in a valley filled with dense forest and rocky outcroppings. From his aerial vantage point, Vextor watched the humans immediately begin adapting to their environment with remarkable ingenuity. Despite constant complaints about the cold mountain air that turned their breath into visible clouds, they worked together to construct sophisticated shelters using only natural materials. Fascinating problem-solving capabilities, Vextor recorded, as he watched Cadet Ray direct her team in building lean-to structures from fallen branches and layers of pine needles. Despite vocal displeasure with environmental conditions, humans demonstrate immediate tactical adaptation. Team Beta, under Cadet Gill's command, faced even greater challenges in a barren valley where food sources appeared non-existent. Vextor expected them to ration their limited supplies and endure hunger until extraction. Instead, he observed behavior that defied galactic survival protocols entirely. The humans began hunting local wildlife with improvised weapons crafted from sticks, stones, and equipment straps. Cadet Gill himself stalked a deer through underbrush for 3 hours, moving with patience that impressed even the mechanical observer, whose programming included advanced hunting algorithms. When the animal was finally caught, the entire team participated in processing and preparing the meat over fires they had started using primitive friction methods. Remarkable resource utilization, the robot collective's representative noted through its translation matrix. Human Gill has transformed limited supplies into sustainable nutrition sources using only environmental materials and tactical knowledge. Team Gamma chose the most challenging route through mountain passes, where snow still clung to northern slopes despite the season. Led by Cadet Yun, they demonstrated endurance that pushed the boundaries of what Vextor considered biologically possible. The humans climbed rocky faces using rope techniques, crossed icy streams by constructing improvised bridges, and maintained team morale through constant encouragement despite obvious physical stress. For 3 days, the exercise proceeded according to plan. All teams made steady progress toward their objectives, overcame environmental obstacles, and maintained communication discipline that would have impressed professional military units from across the galaxy. Vextor compiled detailed observations about human resilience, tactical flexibility, and group coordination under extreme conditions. Then disaster struck with devastating suddenness. On the 4th day, Team Gamma was attempting a vertical descent down a cliff face using rappelling techniques when equipment failure occurred. Cadet Wu's rope anchor point gave way during his descent, sending him tumbling 30 meters down jagged rock surfaces before landing with sickening impact on a narrow ledge. The sound echoed across the valley like breaking glass. Vexitor's platform immediately descended for closer observation as he prepared to document human casualty procedures. Standard galactic military protocol would involve radio communication with medical support, evacuation of the injured individual by specialized personnel, and continuation of the exercise by remaining team members. The mission parameters were clear: complete the objectives regardless of individual setbacks. What happened next redefined Vextor's understanding of human psychology entirely. Within minutes of Cadet Wu's fall, emergency signals began broadcasting across all communication frequencies, not just from Team Gamma but from Teams Alpha and Beta as well. Every human involved in the exercise had somehow learned of the accident and was abandoning their individual missions to converge on Wu's location. Impossible behavioral pattern observed, Vextor whispered into his recording device. All human units are violating direct orders to assist single injured individual. This contradicts fundamental military discipline. Cadet Don from Team Alpha took command of the rescue operation with authority that transcended normal chain of command structures. He coordinated 3 separate teams across kilometers of difficult terrain, establishing communication relays and directing resources toward a single objective, saving their injured comrade, Cadet Sol, who had been trained in field medicine, rappelled down the cliff face to reach Cadet Wu, despite obvious danger to herself. Using only basic supplies, she stabilized his injuries, while other humans established pulley systems to lift him from the ledge. Most remarkable was Cadet May organizing a human chain of carriers who would transport their injured teammate across 50 kilometers of mountain wilderness. Vextor watched in amazement as 90 humans abandoned their individual survival concerns to focus entirely on collective rescue efforts. They shared food, equipment, and energy reserves without hesitation. Teams that had been competing against each other merged into a single unit with perfect coordination. Mission parameters have become irrelevant, he noted. Human pack loyalty supersedes all other considerations, including personal safety and official objectives. The exercise officially ended 3 days early as the entire cadet formation escorted Cadet Wu to the nearest medical facility. Their instructors, including Commander Kim, waited at the extraction point, not with disappointment about failed objectives, but with obvious pride in their students' decision-making. Outstanding demonstration of proper military values, Commander Kim announced to the assembled cadets. Mission success means nothing if we lose our people. You made the right choice. As Vextor's transport prepared for departure from Earth's orbit, he completed his final report while watching the Academy grounds through long-range sensors. Cadet Wu had recovered fully and was laughing with the same humans who had risked everything to save him. Their bonds had been strengthened rather than damaged by the crisis. Final assessment, Vextor dictated to his quantum recorder. Human. Military training appears chaotic, contradictory and psychologically unsound by Galactic Confederation standards. However, it produces warriors capable of impossible feats through their ability to transform individual weakness into collective strength. They find power in adversity and forge unbreakable bonds through shared hardship. Recommendation: immediate alliance status with human military forces. Under no circumstances should any Confederation member engage in armed conflict with this species. Their training methods may appear primitive, but they create soldiers who view death before dishonor as reasonable career advancement. More importantly, they demonstrate loyalty that transcends individual survival instincts. Commander Vextor sealed his report as Earth disappeared behind them, still puzzled by humans who found joy in suffering and strength in apparent madness. The end.